When you're faced with a tough decision, do you follow your heart or listen to reason? I had 90 days to turn this forgotten car into something cool like this. Alone in my home garage, I made my plan. Built a one-off body kit from scrap and I sprayed it with a strange paint. I turned the wrong wheels into something special and I've cut the interior apart to create one that is unique. Everything was leading to this moment. I've got chosen to show my car at the Modified Nationals and then I failed. I had a choice: rush it, show up unfinished and regret it forever, or stay behind, disappear and follow my vision. I have only one chance to make a first impression. Yet, this episode isn't about failure, it's about rewriting the rules. So I'm challenging the status quo and I'm building a set of headlights like you've never seen before. And when I'm done, you won't see just a project, you'll see a revolution. Some people build cars, I'm breaking molds. But am I making a statement or taking it a step too far? Join me and let's find out. The headlights on a supercar are really aggressive. Ours, people say it looks like a frog eye. But I have a very bold idea and I want to use two different headlights to create a set with an asymmetrical design and give this car a whole new look. It could be a reason why nobody's done this before, but if I do it right, this could be something really unique. So the first thing that I'm planning to do is to use the headlights without the lens, but this will leave me with some major problems. The biggest one being that they won't be waterproof anymore, and this will lead to major electrical failures. Therefore, it is super important that you hit the like button right now, because only you can help me reach more people who subscribe to our journey. And before I start working on the headlights, let me explain first. The reason why I'm not going to continue with the interior is because I had limited time and I've designed it to a certain level with that in mind. But now that I don't have the pressure of the deadline anymore, this gives me the freedom to do so much more cool things with this interior. And obviously this implies a lot more work into planning and designing and so on and so forth. So that's why I'm going to start with this. The lens is glued into its place with butyl rubber, and to remove it, the entire headlight must be baked in an oven until the rubber is soft enough. Because I don't have an oven in my garage, I'm going to improvise one from a cardboard box. On the lower corner, I'm going to cut a hole for the intake, and on the opposite upper corner, I'm cutting another opening to act as an exhaust. I'm going to place the heat gun in on a slight angle so that the flow is going to point slightly up, and then I'm going to place the headlight inside in such a way that it is away from the flow of the heat, and then I'm just going to close it up and let it run for a few minutes until the glue is soft enough for me to actually remove the glass. Then I close the box and I place the rag on top to keep the heat as much as possible inside. I don't recommend using your kitchen oven, as your mother, girlfriend, wife is not going to be pleased by the smell, and I definitely don't recommend doing this like me and risk setting your house on fire. I left the heat gun running for a few minutes and I always kept an eye on it just in case something was going wrong. I checked the box a few times, and now that the glue holding the glass in place is soft enough, I removed the headlight from the box and I'm using some flathead screwdrivers to pry it out. And now that it started to move, I'm using my hand to gently pull it off the case, and I'm trying as much as possible to keep the strings of glue away from sticking to the chrome trim inside. And now that the lens is off, it's not waterproof anymore, and as you can see, the bulb is exposed. So I'm going to use this. This is a projector, and then this is gonna go right over here. And oh, as you can see, it's touching over there, so I'll need to trim that. But for the time being, I'm just gonna put it like that. This one, I need to make it watertight as well, and this as well. And then I'm going to use these DRLs. This one is gonna go over here, this one is gonna go over there. And then I'm gonna make all of this black. To gain access to the main lights assembly, first I need to remove this chrome trim that is held into place with 3 screws from the back. And now, I think this is gonna come off. There you go. With it free, I placed it back and I'm installing the projector as well, because I remember that they're rubbing and I need to mark it to know where to cut. I'm gonna take this out and I'm gonna trim it like that. And because I know how much I need to cut, I turned the part a few times just to see what is the best way to trim without damaging anything else. With the 80 grit flap disc on the angle grinder, I'm trimming the part in small steps to avoid any mistakes. I've installed the cover and projector back to check my progress, and I realized that I need to trim a bit more. So I made a new mark and I resumed grinding the cover until I couldn't see the sign anymore. Final check. Yeah, there we go. Plenty of clearance here. So when this is gonna move for the alignment, it's not gonna touch on that, which is perfect. Because the trim is made of plastic, most probably this is not chrome plated but metallized. Therefore, I'm trying to remove the chrome chemically with household products, because metallized parts often have the base gloss black, and I'm hoping that I can get away without actually painting this. This has been left on for quite a while now, and it definitely works. So this comes off, but I wish I would have checked this before, because I was hoping that this has a black base and it would have been just so much easier to look on the side and just scratch a bit and see that the plastic is actually white. So I have no other choice. I'm gonna have to sand this down and then paint it black. I'm using Scotch-Brite because it follows the surface better than sanding paper, and I just need to lightly sand the surface for the next coat to stick. I mixed a small amount of 2K black paint, and I'm spraying very thin layers to make sure that I cover all the hard to reach spots, and I finish with a few thick coats. However, because this needs to dry now, I moved inside and I continue my work there. The headlight has two bolts to adjust the beam. One is for up and down and the other one for left and right. I've unscrewed them to remove the lens from the bolts, and now it's only secured into a socket with a ball joint. I'm using a large flat screwdriver to pry it out, and eventually it came loose. I'm taking the assembly apart, and because I want to get rid of the chrome, I'm sanding the high beam reflector lens. I degreased it and painted it matte black. I left it to dry, and in the meantime I'm putting a soft cover on the table because I need to work on the projector and I don't want to damage the lens. I think I am a bit lucky because this already has a case. So now I need to take it apart and seal it here, and probably here. And then I'm gonna build a cap here, and this is going to be watertight. And plus I'm pretty sure I'm going to use LEDs, and LEDs are a lot cooler than halogen, so this should be good. Let's start taking this apart. I'm undoing the two screws for the bezel, and as I was removing the lens... Whoa, look at this! All the chips. Wow! It's not cool. Even though the lens is chipped, assembled, the damage can't be seen. But as I'm removing the screws that secure the body together, I've just realized that I have another problem with this. Because I'm going to seal it, I need to make a breather port for the heat and moisture to get out. And as I was looking to this, I've just realized there's this small gap over there, so if I trim this and I put a pipe over there, I have my breathing point, and it's not going to be obvious, like drilling a hole into this one and messing up the chrome. So I think this is just the best way to have it. I've marked the mirror case first, and I'm trimming it with a cutting disc. I placed it back, and now that I can see where the limits are, I made two marks, and after I'm connecting them in a radius. Since this case is made of aluminium, I'm using a special alloy bit on a rotary tool, because a normal tungsten carbide burr would get clogged up instantly. Yeah, I'm pleased with this. I think it's enough. Now I'm just gonna take a picture and then jump in front of the laptop and design a breather pipe, and I'll be right out. Drawing and printing the part took less than 20 minutes, and now that this is in, this is going to go like there. Aha, look at that. Brilliant, really, really good. And with all the parts ready, I need to have the lens absolutely spotless. So with a microfiber cloth, I'm cleaning the inner side of the glass, and I'm using gloves to make sure that I'm not leaving any fingerprints. The outside, not so much, because it's gonna be exposed anyway. And since this is apart, I'm wiping the mirror inside the housing as well. I'm scratching the surface with 120 grit paper, and last, I'm using silicone remover to degrease them. Now to seal all of this together, I'm going to use high temperature silicone. This is made for the engine. It says that it can sustain 300 degrees Celsius, so if it can take up that much heat, it's gonna be more than enough for this. I installed the breather pipe first, and after I'm laying a thin bead around the entire face of the case, I'm pressing them together and I install the two screws. After I'm applying a small amount on the top side and I'm using the screwdriver to spread it out, I'm making sure that the lens is spotless. I placed it on the body and I'm spreading the silicone to fill the gaps from the chips. I put a small bead on the top bezel and I secure it in its place. I'm also sealing the lower side of the bezel to the body. I'm wiping the excess, and now that this is watertight, I'm securing the low beam projector to the freshly painted high beam mirror. Okay, now this is starting to look like something. Now this ball joint is really, really tough. This one is going over there, but it's gonna be a challenge to place it back in, so hopefully I can do it without damaging anything.
I align the two together and I'm tightening the adjustment bolts to bring the mirror close to the case.
Good. Now the last bit. Oh, look how easy it went. Perfect. This turned out really good. I'm happy with this. Now I need to focus on the high beam projector because I know that there are a few things that I need to sort out, but I just hope that I'm not gonna have any kind of major surprises. So
the first thing that I had to do was to take the projector apart.
this is the inside of the headlight. There's the mirror inside, so the bulb goes here, and then this is the blinder. And when you put power to it, you have the high beam, low beam. This is how it goes, very simple.
Because this is going to be for the high beam, I remove the solenoid with the blinder and I'm assembling the projector together with a brand new shroud.
Next thing that I need to do is to install the DRL, but I don't want to glue it on just like this. I want to make a case so that this can slide in, and also like that is going to be watertight.
So I jumped in front of the laptop and I designed the housing for the day running light that will center on the projector shroud as well. I've hit print, and a few hours later,
this is the part. This goes in like that. Perfect. And then this has a small lip over here, and it should fit perfectly over there, which it does. Now that this is done, this side of the projector, I can make it watertight. Now it's just this end, so I need to go and design a part that will go on top, and then I can seal this and make this part watertight as well.
a few hours later.
Whoop. My new part. I've designed it with two ports, one on the top, one on the side, and let's see how it's going to fit. This should have a top, yeah, here, and then this should go like this. And yeah, we are there. Now for the moment, to keep it in place, I'm just gonna use a tape and see if I actually need to do any mods. So this is in. I need to put this one first, and this one goes over there. Whew. This is very close here. It's barely touching the thread, but I think we're gonna be all right. Yeah, we're good. We're barely there, but we're good. Don't really like this breathing port. I think it's too close to the mirror. So I'm just gonna step inside and redesign this part without this and probably make it slightly longer, and then I'll be right out. Anyway, this is my new part. Looks a lot like a cup. Now I just need to see how it goes.
I removed the projector and my previous printed case. I grabbed my new part and...
Now this is gonna go. Wow, I'm loving this. Then this goes on top like that. Perfect, this is awesome. Now that this is done, this goes like this. This already looks really, really nice. Now that I have this, let's install the second one. And yeah, this is not nice. Let me show you. So this one is aligned like that, and then the face of this projector, it's angled, and it looks a bit like that. This is annoying. Okay, so I need to make a new part that basically is going to fill up this gap over here. Finally, I printed 1, 2, 3 until now, and now the fourth one, so I do hope that this one is gonna work all right. And it does. It looks really, really good. Never mind. Let me show you. The top of the lens is here, and then on this other one is here. It's so sunk in. So I can't leave it like this, probably it's gonna influence the beam pattern. But if I trim this off here, and I bring the DRL as close as possible to the case, I think it's gonna work. And I do have a spare one of these, so I think I'm gonna cut that one and keep this one to the side.
And since this one is the last one I have, I made my mark and started to trim it in small steps, first with the angle grinder and after with the rotary tool to avoid any mistakes.
Now this is going to be way better. Now I just need to go and design a part for this, and yeah, we're good to go. I have the part.
But it's not fitting very well, so I decided to trim this instead of the headlight piece, and
Hopefully I'm not gonna ruin it, but to be honest, I'm not gonna print another one, even if it goes bad. Ow! Ow! Even this is fighting me. Even if it's gonna go bad, I think I'm just gonna build it with the iron.
I'm trimming it to bring it as close as possible to the projector, but I realized that the ring is not large enough to sit flush, so I'm using the soldering iron to add some material and make the ring wider. With a very coarse sanding paper, I'm giving it its final shape, and
This should go like this. Then this is the part. Now this should go over there. And it's the same problem all over again. It's touching over here.
and after I marked and trimmed it,
It's pretty much done. Now let's just plastic weld this together, sand it, and then let's see from there.
I'm securing them together using the plastic welder, and I'm trimming the ends off with the angle grinder. I degreased it, applied body filler, let it set, and I'm sanding it with a coarse 120 grit paper, then I degreased again, and finally I can apply the acrylic filler.
It's the morning after. This is nice and set. It got late, I couldn't see properly, so I didn't apply enough product over here, but it is what it is. I got inside and I poured whatever left I had in the cup on top, and now it looks really wonky, but it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna spray some control paint and I'm gonna sand this down, and hopefully it's gonna look all right and I can apply the final coat of paint.
I used a bit of matte black as control paint, and I'm sanding it flat with Scotch-Brite. I sprayed a coat of primer to make sure that it's nice and smooth, and I applied the black paint. But it looks like a small amount of water got through, so I decided to remove the paint while it was still wet. I sanded, sprayed primer, sanded and painted again, just to realize that this time it was a total disaster.
I'm spraying this the third time. There must be something wrong with this paint, even though it's a new tin.
I removed the paint again, and since I don't have another bottle of black, I moved on to make the high beam projector watertight. The first step was to take it apart and clean it really well. After that, I started to seal the shroud, then the DRL, and glued them together, wiped the excess, and after, to seal the shroud to the lens was a bit more challenging than I thought, because the gap was a bit bigger and I needed to make sure that I don't smudge the lens. With the top part done, I'm applying a bit of silicone at the base of the projector, and I used heat-resistant tape to seal and join them together.
For the time being, I need to stop because I don't have supplies, so I need to go and buy stuff. It's too late. Yesterday I tried everything. I cleaned the compressor, checked the trap on the pressure line. The part was properly degreased and still that happened. So that got me thinking that either the paint or the hardener was bad. So today I just went and picked up a new tin of paint.
I was really hoping that I won't have any more surprises, and from the moment I started to mix the paint, everything looked better. I was starting to feel more confident that this time is going to be different, and what a difference this is. So I've left this to dry and I moved inside.
I received the H1 LED bulb, and I'm a bit nervous, to be honest, because I don't think it's going to fit into this projector. Reason is this is made for HID bulb, and this is slightly bigger, and looking inside there is a small lip over there. I don't know if you can see, and yes, it doesn't fit. So now I need to take this apart and get rid of that and then install this. Plus I forgot to actually put the holes and the breathing port, so I need to take this apart anyway.
I'm removing the projector from the headlight and taking the rear cover off. Clean the silicone, and I'm using a 10mm drill bit to drill the holes. To cover them, I am cutting 2 round patches out of this breathable tape.
Now this one is really glued on. I don't want to break it, so I'm just gonna try to trim it like this, and then I'll try to blow it with compressed air and see if it works.
I'm using the aluminum burr on the rotary tool. The bulb goes, but this is full of debris. So I use compressed air to try and push the shavings out.
It actually worked. Oh my god, this is such a relief.
I plugged in the day running lights, and since the headlight cover was still wet, I stopped here for today. Next day, with the cover dry, I resumed to install the DRL for the low beam. I used a small amount of silicone on the case and on the light, slided the cable through, and I pushed the ring into its place.
It took a while to get here, but I'm almost done. I still want to make this bit over here in matte black so that the light is not gonna reflect into that. And then I still need to fill up this gap over here, but I think I have an idea and I'm gonna tell you about that a bit later.
Because I need to get the line right, I took my time to mask the border. After that, I just covered the back and the entire face with masking tape. I'm sanding the exposed part lightly with Scotch-Brite for better adhesion, I degreased and spraying several coats of matte black. And while that dries, I'm removing the butyl rubber by heating it up and using a screwdriver. It's time consuming, but not difficult, and it's something that will make my life easier later on. And now that the paint is dry, I can remove the masking tape and finally have a look.
Remember when I told you about the problem that I have with the headlight? Well, this is it. There is this gap all around the headlight and it just looks unfinished, it looks bad. My idea is, why should I lose so much time in designing and making a part when I already have this, which is a perfect fit, and then just put this over here, mark where I need to cut, remove this bit that I don't need, and I'm done.
I installed the lens on the headlight to realize that it already has an edge that I can use as my mark. Since it's made of plastic, I started cutting it with my favorite tool, slightly smaller than the mark, and I'm leaving the indicator lens on because I think it might look cool. Ignoring my flawless karate skills, I removed the center bit with the cutting disc and I'm using the flap disc to close into the mark. I installed it on to see how it looks and...
No, the distance is too big over here. Plus it doesn't look good at all. I tried and it doesn't look good.
So I removed the lens, transformed it to a trim now. I'm cutting the corner bit out, trimming the edge with the flap disc, and I finished sanding the edge by hand with 80 grit paper on a block.
Now this is where it's getting really controversial. Why? Because on the first headlight it had the projector for the low beam and I've installed a second one for the high beam. Where on this one, the pre-facelift, the frog eye, it has this massive reflective mirror and I'm going to install one big round headlight. And this is how I'm going to get the asymmetrical design. It's gonna be really wonky, it's gonna be something really wild, but who knows, maybe it's gonna work really, really well. So why not?
As the last time, I placed the headlight into my improvised oven and let it bake for a few minutes until the butyl rubber was soft enough. Now that the lens is off, I need to install the headlight on the mirror, but this is made for a motorcycle that usually comes with the metal housing, and the problem is I have limited space inside the mirror, so I need to jump in front of the laptop and design a housing that will actually work with the space that I have available. In addition, I've placed 4 holes for the heat to escape and I've hit print. I got rid of the low beam blinder that gives the light pattern, undo the adjustment bolts and push the ball joint out of the socket to remove the mirror. I'm sanding it with the pad, then I'm using the rotary tool to carve an opening for the headlight plug to pass through. I degreased it and I started by spraying the back and all the edges first with matte black, as I don't want to install it back and see that it has chrome reflections left. In the meantime, the filler that I sprayed on the case is already dry and I continue with the lens. Rather than cutting it like the other one, first I'm installing the glass back to do a check, using masking tape to make my mark, and...
It's a good thing that I checked because it is different from the other one. It doesn't have that ornament inside, so I need to trim the lower bit slightly higher. Everything else is pretty much the same. At the end I'm gonna have a gap here, but I'll deal with that later. Now I just need to remove this, trim it and paint the headlight.
I'm removing the rubber that was previously super glued on by someone and I'm following the mark to cut the inner part out. With my karate pride restored, I'm using the flap disc to close into the mark, the rotary tool to grind the tight corner, and I finish sanding it by hand with a block.
I finished sanding this, now I need to degrease it and put the paint on.
I'm spraying the gloss 2K black, removing the Scout crocodile that's swimming in my wet paint, spray some more and let it dry. And because the housing is finished, I removed it from the printer and...
I am so curious about this, to be honest.
I'm hoping that it will fit without a problem. However...
Oh my god, really? I've printed them so close together that actually they're welded. I can't catch a break! I cannot catch a break. It is what it is.
Because I need to split them without losing too much material, I'm cutting them with the thinnest blade that I have, which is on a rotary tool, and a few discs later, they are apart. I'm sanding the face with a block, I'm applying body filler, let it set, sand it, apply primer, sand again, and paint it with gloss black from a can. But as you can see, it doesn't look very good. And because I have some leftover black vinyl, I decided that maybe it's going to look better if I wrap them. I applied the vinyl, yet I wasn't very pleased. Overall it looked decent, but I think I can do better. So I started doing what I should have done in the first place, and I've sanded the housing and sprayed it with 2K gloss black. And the result? Now, in order to install the round headlight, my plan is to use the leftover projector that I have. This is going to go through the housing like this, and then this entire assembly is going to go over here and is going to be pulled towards the mirror with the nut. The problem is, as you can see, there is not enough space. So I need to take this apart, cut this, and then I'm going to have just enough space to put all of them together. I disassembled the projector and I'm cutting it short. And now that I have everything to secure the round headlight, I can carry on. And next on the list is to paint this inner part matte black and match it with the other headlight. I'm taking my time to mask the edge, and after I cover the rest of the case with masking tape. I'm using a sanding pad to prep this for paint. I degreased, I'm spraying several coats of matte black, and I left it there to set. Once it was dry, I removed the masking tape, and now, another problem that I still have, in the process of painting this, I managed to mess up the chrome here inside. So now I need to mask this, paint it, and last use some silicone and install the amber indicator back on. And with that done, I'm sliding the round headlight inside the housing, secure the two sides together with cable ties, and I'm tightening the top part with heat resistant tape. I'm using the nut to secure it to the mirror, and I slide it inside the headlight case, tighten the adjustment bolts, and press the ball joint into the socket. With the headlight assembled, I only have the X glasses to focus on. I removed the superglued rubber, I'm sanding the lens with a pad, I degreased, applied plastic adhesion promoter, and I started spraying the inner and after the outer side with matte black. Yet, after it dried, it just didn't look very good, so I had no other choice but to apply bedliner paint and finish the headlights the next day. I mixed a small amount of Raptor, I'm painting the face, removed the invading army of crocodiles that landed on my wet paint, and moved them inside to set overnight. Finally a break. This turned out really nice. Because I already removed the butyl rubber, this clip on very easy. I'm securing the two rubber seals back, and these are my asymmetric headlights. Would I do such a thing for every project? Definitely not. But since this is such a Marmite thing, you can leave me a comment and tell me in which camp you're at. Hate it or love it. Anyway, in the meantime, I'm so eager to install this back on the car and see how it actually looks. Obviously this was just a test, I still need to properly do the wiring and then the alignment, but besides that I'm pretty much done. Like a nomad, I gathered some tools and a few parts to work on, but with thousands of miles between me and my garage, how do I keep the project going and create something special? Curious to find what happened? Click or tap on the screen right now and watch this video here. My name is Camil, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.